Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Touchpoint Group Insight session. We are looking at January 2024 for the UK market, and I have a new amazing presenter with me this month. It is Yazid Karkaria, and he is our Global Head of AI Analytics and CX Strategy. Now, Yazid, let's get straight into it, and I really want to hear from you some of those interesting findings for the UK market in January, and possibly even looking back into December. What have you got for us?
Sure. Thanks, Glenn. So we are tracking about 20 banks and financial institutions in terms of their mobile banking experience in the UK market. And we will be using our AI-powered analytics platform, Epiphany, to tell the story today. So before we jump into looking at the performance of different banks, I would like to explain the concept of ECS, or Engaged Customer Score. So we are analyzing the data that users leave behind on App Store and Google Play. And the data where we have the review rating along with a comment, that is what we analyze, because the users are explaining why they have given a certain rating, and we call those users as engaged customers. And they give us a really good direction in terms of what is it that the banks are doing well and what areas need improvements. So jumping straight into it, as you can see on my screen over here, we have 5 key players in the UK market over here. And let's start off with looking at how the engaged customer score looks over a period of the last 12 to 13 months. So broadly, we can divide these 5 banks into 2 sets. So if we look at Lloyds, Starling, and Halifax, their performance has been in a relatively higher range, and there has been relatively less fluctuation in terms of their engaged customer score over this entire time period. On the other hand, if we look at Virgin Money and Monzo, we can see that their engaged customer score has been in a lower range, and the fluctuation is also relatively higher compared to the top performing brands. Now, today we are going to be focusing mainly on Monzo because we are seeing an interesting development that's taken place over here. So as we can see, in the month of January, that's last month, the engaged customer score for Monzo has reached the highest point in across the last 12 to 13 months. It's reached 3.8. So that's something significant that we need to look at. And let's try and understand what resulted in this shift in the engaged customer score from 3.3 in December to 3.8 in January.
Absolutely. Now that's a big jump. Can we have a look and see what they've done to make this happen?
Sure, absolutely, Glenn. And one thing before I get into that is also just make a note of September, where the score was at a really low point, because in my next visualization, I'm going to explain this as well. So now, getting back to our question of what changed in January, I'm going to bring up something known as the pain points analysis. So I'll take a moment to explain what's going on over here. So through this analysis, we are trying to capture the negative feedback that users have shared with us regarding their mobile banking app. So all the percentages and the different topics that you see are highlighting the negative experiences that users have had with their mobile banking app. Now, in the previous visualization, we did see that the score was at its lowest point in September, and over here, you can see an inverse relationship with the pain points, as the incidence of pain points is highest in September and the score was lowest. So we do see this relationship between the engaged customer score and our pain points analysis, and that is what helps our clients to understand what are the areas that need immediate attention. Now, coming back to the question of December and January, so in December, we are seeing the top pain points, which include the app being difficult to use, poor app interface. Then, of course, we have technical issues as well. But then looking at the other key one, which is poor app design, we can see that 3 of these 5 pain points have declined by over 50% in January. So if we look at app being difficult to use, it's dropped from 16% to 8%. Interface has dropped from 11 to 4%, and design has dropped from 6 to 3%, which means that in January, we have fewer customers who are talking about these issues that they have faced. So that straight away tells us that yes, in January, there has been a sharp improvement in the user experience over here.
Yeah, so in December, there was 16% of users felt that the app was difficult to use. Is there any chance we can get some insights in terms of why they said that?
Yes, definitely, Glenn. So far what we've seen is we've seen the engaged customer score and we've seen the pain points. But now let's try and dig in and get to the root of this particular topic, which is the app being difficult to use, which was the most important topic in the month of December. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this particular topic over here, and instantly I can see that on the right hand side a panel opens up, and this panel is going to allow me to dig deeper into this topic. So a few key statistics over here. I get to know the average score for this topic, which is the app being difficult to use. It's only at 1.7 compared to my overall average of 3.3 in December, which tells me that this particular topic is pulling down my score to a great extent. And I don't want more people talking about this. Otherwise, this gap is going to increase. Now, here we can also see some of the subtopics within this topic, which comprise of all the user comments in this particular area. Now, what we can do over here also is we can compare Monzo to other players and see how they performed in this area in December. So in the benchmark view over here, we can see the incidence of pain points for this particular topic of app being difficult to use across the key players in the UK market. And what we find out is that Monzo is having the highest incidence of pain points for the topic app being difficult to use in the month of December, which tells us that other banks are performing much better on this front. Of course, we have a few others like First Direct and NatWest, which also have relatively higher incidence of pain points, but Monzo by far has the highest incidence of pain points on this topic. Now, what we can also do is we've taken a look at the key statistics over here and compared ourselves to competitors, but now I want to take a slightly deeper look and see what are the key things that customers are talking about when they say the app is difficult to use. So we have people talking about it's difficult to navigate, people talking about move pot. Then we have other topics like new layout, old layout, etc. So there are quite a few things that people are talking about. Now, in order to get a really descriptive summary of what's going on, I'm going to show you one of the most recent features that we have integrated in our platform, and that's the integration with ChatGPT. So Glenn, here, what ChatGPT helps us to do is it helps us analyze all the comments within this topic, and then it gives us a descriptive summary which we can analyze and use in terms of communicating with our stakeholders. So here, in 5 points, it's explained why the app is difficult to use. It's talking about complex and confusing user interface, difficulty in navigation, poor user experience with bots. This is something we saw even in the word cloud, slow and unresponsive app, and a number of customers have also expressed their desire to revert back to the earlier version as well. And at the end of it, if someone wants to look at the actual customer comments, then you're free to dive into these examples and look at all the comments pertaining to this topic. So here we have a number of customers talking about the UX being dreadful, it's complicated, difficult to manage, and not user-friendly.
Wow, that's a great summary of what happened in December. Now, is it possible to dive into some golden nuggets of insights on some of the smaller topics and see how they've changed over the December and January period?
Sure, definitely, Glenn. So we did see a sharp improvement in January, and the next visualization that I'm going to show you is going to help us understand what are the things which have improved and what are the things which have deteriorated further. So I'll just take a moment to explain what's going on over here. So here we are looking at a number of topics which have been covered based on what the users have mentioned. And we are looking at 4 main quadrants: topics which are positive and improving, topics which are positive but deteriorating, negative topics and deteriorating, and negative and improving topics. So here in this quadrant, we have topics which are generally negative, which means that anyone who talks about these topics, the impact on my overall score is likely to be negative. But the good news here is that though these topics are negative, there is an improvement in these topics compared to the earlier time period. So here we are comparing December and Jan. So here we can see that move pots, joint account, old layout, new UI, all these topics have been negative, but there is an improvement. So what I may do is I'm just going to zoom in a little more over here, since this is our focus area, and try and understand the ones which are negative and improving. So here we are looking at move pods. So again, on the right hand side, the panel would open up and I can actually go ahead and see what are the different things that customers are talking about. So it seems that the recent update they have made, it has made the usage of pods, which are used to manage your budgets and track spending, etc. It's made management of pods a little more difficult, and that's what's coming through over here. And similarly, people talking about joint accounts. So joint account holders have faced some difficulty based on the new UI changes which have been introduced in the app. So if we just look at a few over here, yeah. So there are certain features which are not applicable to new users, and some changes in the UI have made it difficult for joint account users as they can't manage their account in the same way that they were earlier doing. And guess what, Glenn? These topics coming up over here are above and beyond the framework that we have defined. So Epiphany has the power to pick up any new topics even beyond the framework that we defined for the platform and bring out those highlights. For example, joint account was not a part of our original framework, but the platform is intelligent enough to bring those insights up for our users to help us dive deeper and understand this in greater detail.
Well, it's interesting to see how those design and UI changes can really impact that user experience to such an extent.
Yes, Glenn. In fact, the mobile app reviews is a very sensitive channel for customer feedback, and any changes to the user experience are likely to reflect very strongly over here. And design and UI changes can have a profound impact on user experience. Based on our experience in analyzing millions of user reviews, we have seen that whenever major or significant changes are made to the UI, there is some resistance initially. However, banks can track the impact of these changes very easily using Epiphany and also measure the recovery rate and the recovery time. For example, in the January data, we still have users talking about the same issues that we saw in December, but the incidence of those issues is declining, which helps us track that recovery period.
Yeah, so that looks great, Yazad. And I know that you are a seasoned professional looking at all of this, but how is it that you work with clients to ensure that they get the best out of the platform?
Yeah, so we work very closely with our clients in this space, Glenn, and some of our clients have done pilots before the launch of a new UI, and we've helped them gauge the early signs of discontent among users, and then they've been able to take an informed decision about launching or rolling back some of the key changes that they were intending to make. And the best part about this offering is that it's a turnkey solution, and we manage everything for our clients, right from data extraction to reporting to platform access, and it's relatively quick and easy to plug into their existing insights ecosystem. And this contains public data, so we don't need the banks to share anything with us.
Well, that is a pretty great explanation in regards to how we can use that, and a great snapshot in regards to the performance of those banks in the UK. If you want to have a chat to us in and around your bank or your app, feel free to sing out, reach out to one of us, and we can set up a meeting. Thanks again, Yazad, and look forward to having you on again next month, where we dive deep into both the UK and the US markets.